The Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy, or the UDRP, establishes the international framework which resolves domain name disputes in the top-level domains such as .com, .net, and .org. The equivalent policy in Australia is the AU Dispute Resolution Policy, or the AUDRP. There are some differences between these policies. However, their purpose is to provide a quicker and cheaper alternative to litigation for resolving domain name disputes. To succeed under the AUDRP, the complainant must prove A. The domain name is identical or confusingly similar to a name, trademark, or service mark in which the complainant has rights. B. The registrant has no rights or legitimate interests in respect of the domain name. And C. The domain name has been registered or subsequently used in bad faith. We will now briefly consider each limb in turn. The issue of confusing similarity must always be judged on the facts of each case. A domain name will be identical or confusingly similar if there is a likelihood that it would mislead or cause internet user confusion. To satisfy this test, the relevant trademark or name would generally need to be recognizable within the domain name. In the case of United Parcel Service of America, Inc., known more commonly as UPS, and Wesley Bryant, the panel concluded that there was no confusing similarity as the inclusion of the letters P, I, C, and K in the website Pickups Online would lead an internet user to perceive that the domain name described an online service relating to picking up things or persons rather than a domain using the trademark UPS. A respondent will be taken to have demonstrated a right or legitimate interest where it is established that either A. Prior to notice of the dispute, the respondent used the domain name in good faith, B. The respondent was commonly known by the domain name, or C. The respondent made legitimate use of the domain name without an intent to gain a commercial advantage or disrupt or tarnish the business of a competitor. Common examples of using a domain name in good faith arise in the course of employment or by agreement, where the respondent is given permission to create and use a domain name to promote the business. However, this will typically be lost where the employment or agreement comes to an end. On the basis that a complainant is only required to establish that the name was either registered or used in bad faith under the AUDRP, a finding of bad faith can occur even in cases where the domain name was registered in good faith. This can be shown where the respondent continued to use the domain name after termination. Examples of conduct which amount to bad faith can include acquiring a domain name for the purposes of selling, renting, or otherwise transferring it, registering a domain name to prevent the owner of the trademark using it, using a domain name for sale of products in direct competition with those sold under the complainant's trademark, and using a domain name for the purposes of disrupting, tarnishing, or creating confusion. A finding of bad faith under the third limb will usually follow where a person is found to have no rights or legitimate interests in relation to a domain name. A person can make a claim to an AUDRP provider if the complainant falls within the jurisdiction. There is a fee of $2,000 for the matter to be heard before a single member or a fee of $4,500 before a 3-member panel.